We've seen dramatic attacks targeting civilian communities. Matt, I hate to interrupt. There's a big cockroach on the wall over your head there, so maybe need a. We'll defer that to. I don't know. It's not no insecticide or roachicide in the briefing, Matt.
I'll go get it as soon as you finish.
Yeah, I'm sorry to be distracted, but it's a rather large one.
Do I have to get rid of it now?
No. Let me go ahead and finish. We've seen a dramatic increase in attacks across the border. I shouldn't have said anything because now the room's going to have a hard time focusing on the very important messages I have to deliver here. Back to where we were. Back to where we were. We've been extremely concerned about the situation. No American citizen, for any reason, should travel to Russia. And I know this is sometimes comes down to a very painful choice for Americans who have family members in Russia, sometimes family members with health problems that they want to see. But you run a tremendous risk by traveling to Russia of being detained, being imprisoned, being convicted. And so we continue to make clear to every American, do not, for any reason, travel to Russia.
This is my video update on this Friday afternoon, June the 21st. Let's talk about some news. And let's start things off with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Vietnam taking questions from reporters. A lot of questions were given to Putin, and he provided some very interesting answers. I won't go over everything that the Russian president said. I would probably need an hour-long video to do that, but he did say some interesting things. He was asked about the military agreements with North Korea, and he said that the agreements with North Korea were a continuation of the military agreements that North Korea had in place with the Soviet Union from the 1950s. I believe he said that. He also said that if South Korea decides to send more weapons to Ukraine, then Russia could send more advanced weapons to North Korea, could provide more advanced weapons to North Korea. So he did say that. He mentioned the sanctions against North Korea, and he said that the sanctions against North Korea are inhumane. I believe he compared the sanctions that have been placed on North Korea to the blockade and the siege of Leningrad. I believe he did say that. I remember reading that, but I may be wrong. Anyway, he did say that the sanctions against North Korea are inhumane. He talked about Zelensky's legitimacy. Once again, he talked about Zelensky's legitimacy. You know that bothers Zelensky. He said Zelensky's illegit. He's the illegit president of Ukraine. He did say that. He also said Zelensky will be gone. I think he said in 2025, Zelensky will be gone once the collective West gets Zelensky to pass some very controversial laws and legislation, like pushing the mobilization age down to 18. Once they get Zelensky to do all of that stuff, then they're going to get rid of the man in the green T-shirt. He was asked about the special military operation, and he said that losing for Russia is not an option. He said if Russia were to lose, then it would be the end of Russia's 1,000-year history. He talked about Kharkov. He was asked about Kharkov, and once again, he said that the operation in Kharkov was not about capturing Kharkov. There was no siege of Kharkov. Russia was just creating a buffer zone, and he said now Russia is goading the Ukraine military to launch offensives in the Kharkov region so that they can grind down the Ukraine military. That's basically what what Putin said with regards to Kharkov. Let me see if I have a quote, because what he said about Kharkov was pretty interesting. He said that the West is forcing Ukraine to drive Russian troops out of the northern part of Kharkov region at any cost. So it's the West that's forcing the Ukraine military to launch these offensives, of which reports are that Ukraine, across the entire front lines, but especially Kharkov, Ukraine is losing hundreds, thousands of troops a day. Some numbers have the troops being lost across the front lines at 2,000 a day. But Putin said that the collective West, they're forcing Ukraine to drive the Russian troops out of their positions in and around the Kharkov region, and they want to get Russia pushed back from the Kharkov region before they have the NATO meeting. I believe the NATO meeting is in July in the U.S. Here's a quote from Putin. "We know that primarily the Americans and Europeans are pushing the Ukrainians to drive our units back to the state border line at any cost. I want to emphasize at any cost. Again, at any cost. They plan to present this as a major success of 2024 in connection with the upcoming NATO summit and the U.S. elections. Well, we'll see what actually happens, but this command at any cost, and I assure you this is the case. I know what I'm talking about. If it is not based on realities, will once again cost the Ukrainian armed forces dearly," he said. Will once again cost the Ukrainian armed forces dearly, forcing them to push back the Russians from the Kharkov region before the NATO meeting and before the elections, the US elections. So that was an interesting statement from Putin. He also said that when he made the latest and what will most likely be the final offer for a ceasefire, he said that he was expecting the collective West to reject it. He said that was expected, but he also said that maybe in the future there'll be some more rational leaders or rational thought in the collective West, and maybe they'll take a second look at his offer. But he also said that the window for this offer is closing very quickly, so there's not much time to accept the offer. He said that Zelensky doesn't want to end the war, because ending the war, he doesn't want a ceasefire, because a ceasefire and ending the war would mean that Zelensky would be gone. He would be pushed out of power. Audi 5000 gone. So that's one of the reasons that Zelensky doesn't want a ceasefire. He also said that Russia is not asking any country for help as they fight the special military operation. So all the talks about Russia asking for help, the collective West media talks of Russia asking for help from China, North Korea, and stuff like that, he said it's nonsense. Russia doesn't need any help, nor is it asking for any help as they fight this special military operation and take on most of NATO. So what else did Putin say? I think that's pretty much a summary, a pretty good summary of what Putin said in Vietnam. Let's now move on. Yeah, let's move on to a story from the Financial Times, which is saying that the United States is redirecting Patriot air defense orders to Ukraine. Interceptor missiles destined for other countries will be diverted to help Kiev protect cities and critical infrastructure. Basically, the Financial Times is reporting that the United States is taking whatever Patriot interceptors, air defense systems it has, Whatever orders are given to other countries, they're diverting it and sending it all to Project Ukraine. Whatever they can send to Project Ukraine. That's a sign of desperation. That is a sign of pure desperation from the United States to try and keep the conflict going, to try and make sure that Ukraine does not collapse, at least before the November elections. Brian Berletic weighed in on this report from the Financial Times, and this is what he said in a Twitter X post. He said, U.S. halting exports of Patriot missiles to supply Ukraine with all monthly production is an act of desperation, futility. U.S. only makes 500 to 550 missiles a year. Russia fires over 4,000 missiles at Ukraine over the same period, exhausting Western air defense capabilities. U.S. Patriot missile interceptors were already suffering from a critical shortage before Patriot systems were transferred to Ukraine. U.S. air defense production was never meant to operate on this scale. It would take years to ramp up production to do so. And then Brian included an article, I believe from like 2-3 years ago, from Al Jazeera. Let me see if I have this article, which talks about how Saudi Arabia is in desperate need of Patriot systems. It's running out, courtesy of the Houthi rebel attacks. Here it is, Al Jazeera. Saudi Arabia may run out of interceptor missiles in months as Houthi rebel attacks escalate. Riyadh has an urgent situation as it runs out of missiles for its air defense systems, Financial Times newspaper reports. So yeah, there's not an abundance of these Patriot interceptors, missiles, and air defense systems. This is a tough one for the collective West to find and to provide to Ukraine. Saudi Arabia, from this Al Jazeera article, as you could see, was running low and is running low, and now whatever Patriot systems have to be delivered to various countries or buyers, they're all going to be diverted to Ukraine, but it's not going to be enough. It's still not going to be enough because, as Brian pointed out, Russia is firing, what did Brian say, 4,000? Where is it? 4,000 missiles at Ukraine over the period where the U.S. makes 500 to 550 missiles a year. Launching 4,000 missiles over 1 year, and the U.S. only makes 500 a year. No problem. Niet problem. So, that was the article from the Financial Times. Always great insight from Brian Berletic. And let's now talk about Mark Rutte. It's official. Mark Rutte is going to be the next Secretary General of NATO. Klaus Johannes, he was Rutte's competition. He has pulled out of the race. Orban has given his okay. Orban was the only country that was blocking Rutte. Hungary, Orban was the only country that was blocking Rutte. And he has removed Hungary's block. And so Rutte is going to be the next boss of NATO. Here is what Orban said connected to Rutte and NATO. NATO will have a military mission in Ukraine and Hungary will not participate in it, Orban said. We have achieved the minimum goal. I have agreed with the NATO Secretary General that Hungary will get off the train. NATO will have a military mission in Hungary, but Hungary will not take part in it. The train driver could not be convinced, and now only Trump can stop the train. Such a decision on this mission could be made in the July NATO summit. That is what Orban said. I mentioned this yesterday in my video, that Orban, he said he was going to remove the block on Rutte. if Rutte guarantees that if and when there is a NATO mission in Ukraine, Hungary will not be required to participate. So that is what Orban means when he says that Hungary has achieved the minimum goal. This is a scary quote from Orban, actually. It's a very, very scary quote from Orban. Come July at the NATO summit, he is saying that there may be a decision to send a NATO mission into Ukraine. Hungary will not participate in this NATO mission. Rutte is going to push for this NATO mission. From Prime Minister of the Netherlands to Secretary General of NATO. They just, these collective West leaders, they just get shuffled around and recycled into different globalist positions, huh? Wherever they go, they cause chaos. That's the constant. Wherever they go, they cause chaos. Rutte, as Secretary General of NATO, Kaja Kallas is going to most likely be the foreign minister of the European Union. Ursula is going to most likely stay put as the president of the EU. Macron, who knows where Macron will go, but they just get recycled around the globalist system, but wherever they go, they always bring chaos, incompetence, and chaos. So the All In podcast, they interviewed Trump. They interviewed Trump in the All In podcast, and David Sachs, who we have done a live stream with on the Duran, he asked a question that interests me, and I'm sure interests many of our viewers. He asked about Trump's policy towards Project Ukraine. And I'm going to put a link to David Sachs's Twitter X post on the question that he asked Trump and Trump's answer. In his first interview with the All In podcast, President Trump made a number of important comments on Ukraine. First, Trump guaranteed that if it becomes the next commander-in-chief, he will not put American boots on the ground in Ukraine. If France were to do so, as French President Macron has been advocating for, they would be on their own. Second, President Trump acknowledged the role of NATO expansion in causing the war. And this is a long Twitter X post accompanied with a video. I'm not going to read you the whole thing, but the second part where Trump talks about NATO's role in Ukraine is worth watching, worth listening to. Excellent question from David Sachs. I think an excellent answer from Trump. To be honest, he actually says in his answer that the provocation of Russia, provoking Russia with constant NATO expansion and Ukraine entering NATO is something that has been going on for 10, 20 years. So Trump actually says that in his answer to this question from David Sachs. So I'll put a link to that Twitter X post and definitely check it out. Very good question. Very interesting answer from Trump. If France goes in, they're on their own. That's what Trump said.
To make a peace deal there, would you be willing to take NATO expansion off the table if that's what it took to get the Russians and the Ukrainians to make a deal? Would you be willing to do that?
So for 20 years, I heard that NATO, if Ukraine goes into NATO, it's a real problem for Russia. I've heard that for a long time. And I think that's really why this war started. I'm not sure that this war would have started. Biden was saying all of the wrong things. And one of the wrong things, he was saying, no, Ukraine will go into NATO. That's one of the many things he said. When I listened to him speak, I said, this guy is going to start a war.
59 countries show interest to join BRICS in 2024, according to Watcher.guru. 59 countries. The world is changing, everybody. The world is absolutely changing. 59 countries. I think I read that Malaysia is preparing everything that needs to be done so it can enter BRICS. Malaysia is definitely on the list. Thailand is on the list. Maybe North Korea. Why not? Why not North Korea? Why not? The world is changing. Thailand, Malaysia. What other countries want to enter BRICS? What other countries? I believe Algeria is top on the list to enter BRICS as well. How the world is changing. So Robert F. Kennedy Jr., he responded to this post from Watcher.guru on BRICS growth. And this is what he said on Twitter X. 59 more countries want to join BRICS. We should see this not as a threat, but as a wake-up call. Why do so many countries want to exit the American sphere of influence? Because we have squandered our moral authority through militarism, colonial-style exploitation, and economic warfare. I will turn this around by turning our resources towards rebuilding the homeland and making America once again the envy of the world for its freedom, clean government, and prosperity. Hashtag Kennedy Shanahan 24. I think that's a good answer from RFK Jr. What do you guys think? A good answer to the news that 59 countries want to join BRICS? I think so. What more news do we have to talk about? Should we enter clown world territory? Yeah, let's enter the world of clown world. Let's enter the world of clown world. And is this a clown world? Let's see. You tell me if this is a clown world. There are reports that Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister of the UK, who will have elections on July 4th, Independence Day, and will most likely no longer be the Prime Minister of the UK. There are reports that he owns a $7 million home in California, according to Politico. Rishi Sunak's adversaries claim that he will relocate to his beach house after a defeat in the upcoming snap elections. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak owns a $7.2 million beach home in Santa Monica, California, where his opponents say he could move if he loses a general election next month, Politico reported on Wednesday. UK media is also reporting that Rishi Sunak's security or bodyguards, let me know if I'm getting this story wrong, but they're reporting that his security detail was betting on the elections or when he would call snap elections or something like that. And this is also a scandal. And there are reports that Rishi Sunak will be the first UK Prime Minister or the first UK Prime Minister in decades. I'm not sure. Maybe he's going to be the first ever that is going to lose his seat during these elections. he's gonna pack it up and move to California. Dream of Californication, Rishi Sunak. Oh man, $7.2 million home. Wow. Well, he's worth hundreds of millions, isn't he, Sunak? And his wife, from what I understand, is worth billions, or her father is worth billions. He has one of the largest software companies in India, I believe. Rishi Sunak's wife's father. Anyway, he's worth billions. They're both worth a lot of money. So 7.2 million is nothing for Sunak. I'm sure he has homes all over the place. But yeah, he's going to pack it up and go to the U.S. Rishi Sunak's going to go to the U.S. Maybe Macron's going to go to the U.S. Maybe even Zelensky will end up in the U.S. Maybe Annalena and Kaya Kallas will eventually end up in California. It's gonna be like Melrose Place, like one of the '90s or early 2000 drama TV shows. Instead of Melrose Place, it'll be called Globalist Boulevard, starring Rishi Sunak. Hunter Biden will play the bad boy. Macron will play the evil guy, and Kaya Kallas, she will be the girl that's always stirring up trouble and intrigue. Globalist Boulevard, starring Rishi Sunak, Emmanuel Macron, Hunter Biden, Kaya Kallas, and Annalena Baerbock. They're all going to be living in some suburb, like a really rich neighborhood in California. Also starring Zelensky, with special guest star Podolyak. Podolyak, this good TV show. We finally made it. We have TV show in America. We did it, Podolyak. We did it. Oh boy. I don't know if that was a clown world, if this is a clown world or not. But anyway, that's the trouble that Sunak is facing. Oh man. So get this. This is great. This is a great clown world. Get this. The Swiss Peace Summit, the communique was not in physical form. There was not like a document that people signed, the final communique. So basically no one signed anything. I guess it was all in an electronic format, or whatever that means. They had to press a button or something, like a checkbox, I approve. Like a green checkbox, approve. A red checkbox saying I don't approve. And that's how they signed up to the Swiss Peace Summit communique. Electronic format. So basically, no one signed anything connected to the Swiss Peace Summit. There was no signature. Man, The Spectator, they put out an article, a post, with the title, Zelensky's Peace Summit Flop. Zelensky's Peace Summit Flop. That's coming from the UK Spectator. That's a great clown world. Do you guys think that's a good clown world? I think that's a great clown world. What is it, 79 countries? They were telling us 79 or 89 countries signed the Peace Summit, the Swiss Peace Summit. The Swiss Peace Summit. Podolyak. There are no signatures on this Peace Summit. Yes, sir, it was approved in electronic format. Electronic format. What you talking about, Podolyak? I have no signatures. People will think I'm illegitimate president. I need signatures, Podolyak, signatures. Anyway, that's the video, everybody. theduran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, Telegram, and Twitter X. And go to the Duran shop. Use the code football24 and pick up some football merch. The link is in the description box down below.